Namaste and welcome to today's the Love Satsang about the topic of being stuck, feeling disoriented or looping, and what it actually means beyond what the human mind perceives or the human experience is. And if you have listened or watched to the last episodes about the tower moment and the void, you most probably know that it is kind of a continuation of the same phenomenon that we are in collectively. And obviously, if you have clicked on this video or are here in the live room, that this is something that occupies you personally. And as always, I would like to invite you to just first tap with me into our shared energy field. And I know that sometimes that got lost in the space, but I call this satsang because I want to invite more sacredness again into the, somehow the noises, the distractions, the fastness of social media and of life in general. Because what we are also here to relearn, to reprogram ourselves, is to calm down, to not always be multitasking or, watch something in hyperspeed, but to center. And therefore, I invite you, if you can, to close your eyes as usual here at the beginning, and maybe you want to place your hands on your heart and just feel for a moment into yourself, into wherever you are right now, and also into this shared field we are co-creating today. Let your breath deepen, very aware and conscious, so that your system is prepared not to only watch or listen, but also to absorb the words and what lies behind the words, between the lines, so to say. To prepare yourself for the transmission, to receive it, to let with each exhale release what has no space right now here, especially any thoughts from before or thoughts to the future, to anchor yourself into this present moment. And to also feel that with each inhale and with each exhale, you sense your own aliveness in this very moment, where maybe the surrounding feels as if it is standing still, but that inside deeper layers of aliveness reveal yourself, that your life is in fact never stuck, never standstill, never also really looping. And by simply breathing, to have already here a small remembrance for your system that there is nothing to be figured out right now, that not all questions need answers right away, that you are exactly here now to just feel your heart space, your breath, your being, your aliveness. And although society conditions us into doing, into being productive, that exactly by just vibrating, you are worthy, you are taken care of, and you are an important part of this cosmic game. And then take one deep breath in through the nose, into your heart, and exhale through the mouth. If you wish, 2 times like this, just to anchor the knowing of your vibration is enough into your system, into each cell of your body. Releasing any tension in your face. And with the next exhale, slowly coming back with your eyes opening into the space. Namaste again. If you just skipped this part because maybe you are on the go, or maybe you are somewhere driving, or however it came to you that you just skipped this part or thought that's not for you today. We are diving into this vast topic of feeling disoriented. And it is part also of this void state, what we talked last time about. The void actually is the arena for receiving the feeling of I feel somehow lost, I feel stuck, I feel disoriented, I feel looping. And I emphasis that it is obviously just a feeling. It is a perception, your perception as a human being, when things in a way, or when your own ego thinks this is somehow feeling off. I have been on track. I've journeyed my life through with ease and grace, maybe even, or I've somehow made my way through, but now I somehow feel like a wall is coming and I feel kept, I feel imprisoned, maybe. I feel that something is not moving the way it used to move. And that is a very, very common feeling right now in this time quality, where it is a lot, and I repeat myself also here, where it is a lot about reprogramming your system to journey with humanity into higher consciousness. We have been operating on a certain frequency and certain habits and certain patterns, and somehow this has become our normal. And in order to reprogram our system into a new state of being, a new normal, or actually to unwind ourselves, to peel layers away that have been distorted throughout the history of humanity, to come much more in alignment back to your soul, you are, in a way, or your human self, or your soul is orchestrating together with the divine, you being thrown into a void state and feeling lost, disoriented, so that the old patterns, the old habits don't work anymore on purpose. So that you actually have to sit with yourself. You have to contemplate, why is it not working? I mean, it's an automatic process somehow. Why is it not working? You start questioning. You start questioning yourself. You start questioning your beliefs, your habits, your patterns, your environment, your friends. You start a lot of questioning when you are feeling stuck or disoriented. And that is somewhat a smart mechanism of your soul to push you in a way into this new direction. We need disorientation to reorient ourselves in a new way. It's a little bit like as if you are driving a car and have a map of the route, Google Maps maybe even, but you had always a distorted Google Maps. So actually the destination where you wanted to go, which is home, vibration, love, unity, consciousness, was not really to be found, because the distorted map misled you in different ways. So now, so that you can drive actually to the destination in truth, you're calibrating your system to receive a new map. It's just a metaphor or figuratively spoken, because in a way our human mind understands much more when we use images. And by using that image of a map, you followed a distorted map your lifetime or even lifetimes. And now you're receiving a new calibrated map that is much more precise, a new Google Maps that is more aligned back to the truth. You will find your way more clearly, maybe more faster, to home vibration, which is love. And so the disorientation phase is much more what we feel as a human being and what our ego resists. And I know our human mind is very, very much drawn into finding the answers to come out of a state of being. And even if you have been journeying on the spiritual path for a while or a long time, you know a lot of techniques and tools, especially surrounding shifting your vibration, aligning your vibration, becoming a match to a certain specific timeline, quantum jumping, timeline jumping, you name it, manifestation techniques. And oftentimes, actually, interestingly enough, also this doesn't sufficiently work, because I feel, at least this is my personal opinion, a lot of these techniques are truth, but don't include everything. And they are obviously also based on personal experiences. So what works for someone else doesn't necessarily in the same way work for you. Also, yes, we have a baseline of universal laws, you can say, but there are so many influences and tiny things that need sometimes adjustments on your specific soul path, that you cannot, everything cannot be generalized. You cannot generalize everything. So also in this disorientation phase, these techniques even don't work, may not work. So that, what is the purpose? So that you surrender to the higher consciousness, to the divine, to the goddess, to the to that what flows through us and lives in us and brings you awake and alive. Because one mechanism we've also been trained throughout humanity is to work or to run on ego patterns and conditioning, even the subtlest way. Even if you are already have done a lot of shadow work, tiny bits of ego oftentimes still run in the background, because we have, this is kind of like this has been our normal. This has been a normal conditioning of our system. And what collectively happens is to bring us back, I can repeat myself, to bring us back into soul alignment. And for that, we also are trained anew to reconnect in a much deeper way with the divine. To not say, I want to get out of the stuck state, I want to manifest XYZ, or why is it not happening? Like questioning, forcing something to change, to shift, or to transform, or even have kind of a sense of hyper responsibility for your own state of being, which is on the one hand nice because you take responsibility, but if it shifts into the extreme, you're missing the point of seeing that it is not you. It is not you who orchestrates everything. It is the divine itself living itself through you. And it is a layering of surrendering, a deeper and deeper surrendering in such a stuck or disoriented state of being, even in a looping state of being, that with each time your human being or your ego starts questioning, starts wanting to fight, wanting to force, wanting to go out of it, wanting to change something, that each time you still get no answer to this question, how to get out of it, that each time you hit the wall, you're forced into a deeper state of surrendering. Surrendering in that sense means a lot of, I don't know the answer, and apparently I don't receive the answer right now, and it is okay. Sometimes it is, yes, maybe you have overlooked something in a way that you can still adjust and fine tune and work on your vibration. But at some point, you hit that wall of, you just have to surrender right now. You have to sit in it and let the magic behind the scenes unfold. There's so many things we cannot perceive with our human senses, maybe with our psychic senses, even more so. But a lot is not meant to be understood, but to be felt, remembered, surrendered into, and to be received. That is also part of this whole process. That is not always about, I have to do, I have to shift, I have to transform, I have to manifest something to get out of the stuck or looping or disorienting state, but to sit and receive what you already have shifted, or what maybe has to rearrange itself around you so that actually you receive the next step, the next clue. Sometimes it's a little bit like a detective game, maybe, yeah? You can see it a little bit also in a playful way. If it gets too heavy, to invite humor, that always helps to soften the state of being. To say, okay, right now I have everything what I need. I just stand still. I do my daily day, my daily habits. I do, and I am in the very moment. And maybe that's also the teaching, to just much more be in the moment instead of thinking back what has happened that you are in the state, or looking forward into the future to get out of the state, to just be in that very moment. Also one teaching of it. And say, okay, whenever the next clue comes for this detective game of my becoming, my unbecoming and rebirthing process, that I will know for sure when it is time to receive that. I will receive it. To trust, I will receive the next step when it is time. And until then, I just am. I just continue my daily day. I know from my own being, sometimes, I mean, if you're watching here and if you are in my field, you are most probably already diving in different tools and techniques and you are on your spiritual awakening journey. So sometimes it happens that really we get a little bit too much concerned about something needs to move right now, or what have I missed? What is there still to solve or to shift, to transform, as I just mentioned? And then to relax ourselves into the arms of the divine. This is the path also of the feminine reawakening on earth, as you may know. The goddess descending into our bodies again. And the feminine means to surrender into the embrace of the divine, of the masculine principle of the divine. And to anchor much more the feminine qualities of what I also already named: surrender, trust, and we can also add flow, grace, ease. So, like, okay, if I don't get any clues right now, I accept my disorientation. I accept that I feel stuck, that my ego tries to fight it. And at the same time, inviting in another part of you, much more closely connected to your soul. Or if you're already connected with your higher self, to call your higher self in and say to your ego, everything is okay. I'm right where I am right now. I don't have to know everything. And this shall too pass. This state, however long it takes, that's also much dependent on a lot of factors and specific to your journey, specific to your soul, that you find peace with it. And once we find peace with the situation, it's not always like letting go or detaching in the sense of letting go, but more so detaching in a sense of letting it be, neutralizing your reactions, acknowledging how you feel, but then neutralizing it into a sense of acknowledgement, a sense of knowing it has a purpose, and oftentimes we just understand that purpose looking backwards, maybe even a few years afterwards, thinking about that state of being, of looping, of being stuck, and then finding a higher meaning in it. Because of course, as us, no matter how evolved you are in your journey and in the in the state of consciousness you are in, you always have still a little bit of the wheel closed. It is, in a way, for most people, not meant to unwheel everything, and especially not unwheel everything from one day to the other. Disorientation also happens because part of that wheel is slowly being pulled away for you. You don't even sometimes have to do anything. Sometimes it's just a sentence. Sometimes it's a synchronicity, a sign you perceive outside that gives you the next clue. So in that state of being, I can suggest to be very aware of the present moment clues. Like whatever you perceive in your awareness with any sense of your being, to notice it and to try to interpret it without over interpreting it, without too much excessive energy in it, like, oh, I have seen this sign so multiple times, so this has to happen, this, to be calm with it, but to train yourself to see how the universe communicates with you. It always communicates with us, but also due to the rush and the distractions we have, social media especially, and like, I mean, if we walk somewhere outside or see people sitting in cafes, in the train, in the bus, wherever they are, always on their phone. There's no real presence anymore in the very moment with what is around me. And then we lost somehow, I mean, the majority of people lost touch with seeing, perceiving the signs, how the divine communicates with us. And they seek, they Google, they ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT, what is the answer to my problem, instead of looking within. And everything has validity, but if it's in excess, we have to come back into balance. Nature is about balance, always. And if you feel disoriented or stuck, it is one mechanism of your soul, of the divine, of your path, of humanity, of the collective ascension process to get you back on the right track, to give you the right map again. And maybe it's a phase of stuckness that is just a week or a day, perceived day, or maybe years. And maybe there are more of these phases depending on your specific journey. I feel even the more you feel stuck, the longer it lasts also. I mean, the longer or the more you feel stuck, the more you are called into surrender. The more you have maybe been disconnected from your true essence, from the subtle vibrations. If you're all day like here, distractions here, influences here, your system is spammed with outside noise. How do you find that inner peace? And even if you go each week to one yoga class, or if you whatever have your own morning ritual, even then still, often people have so many influences, their whole system is just overwhelmed. The nervous system has been somehow trained to hold a lot of energies that are not truly yours. And the stuck phase, disorientation phase, the void state, what I talked about last time, I can repeat that here as well, are also here to bring you much more closer to your own energy. to reconnect with your own energy, reconnect with your soul, with deeper layers of your own being. Because you cannot manifest your desires if you're not connected with yourself. Otherwise, you will manifest or want to manifest desires of other people, desires of the people you follow on Instagram, desires of your friends, desires of your parents because you want to make them happy or want to be loved. So a lot has been created around false identities, we can also say. And these false identities, these masks, fall down, or are meant to fall down in the stuck, disoriented, looping phase of being. Because it doesn't work anymore in New Earth. New Earth doesn't want your masks. It doesn't want your ego behavior. It doesn't want anything that is out of alignment with your soul. It wants you to be in alignment. And actually, your soul, if you came here and are watching this, your soul also came here to remember, to remember, to realign, to shed lifetimes of anything that blocked you, to live your light as it wants to shine. Some have even masks of, oh yeah, I'm living in alignment, I'm manifesting my dreams, I'm love and light. And you will feel it. You will feel people who, although they promote some spiritual philosophy or tools and techniques, if they are just doing it by repeating calendar quotes or books or what they have heard and seen themselves, without the embodiment of it, without real knowledge of having gone through these states of being, you'll feel it in their energy. And that is also a mask. Unmasking yourself. This you are called to. Sitting with yourself, observing yourself, and why it feels maybe prolonged being stuck, looping, disorienting. Although you do the work, then it is also about our collective. As far as I have contemplated on it and experienced it and experiencing it, if a certain way is not orchestrated around you, the people that need to be in a certain state of consciousness as well around you, you will feel still in this void, disoriented state because you are interwoven into the collective. It's not just align your frequency, connect with source, surrender to the divine flowing through you. Then the next step is even more so surrendering a layer deeper into, all right, if I'm still now stuck and I have done already everything I can think of, imagine, or received from a higher guidance, and I'm still feeling in that state, then it is about the collective rearrangement or cosmic alignment. We can maybe also bring that in, as if there is kind of like a threshold when those who are really ready to glow out into their soul being and are received by the masses, that not like egos running the show and egos following that show, yeah, that we see a lot. Egos performing and egos being magnetized by those because they see themselves in them. But it's like mask mirroring mask. What we are transitioning into New Earth is authenticity meeting the same. Meeting soul to soul, meeting heart to heart, meeting without masks. And that means also a deeper layer of integration of all aspects of yourself. And each and every one is called to look at both the light and the dark, to merge it back into oneness, to see the divine doesn't judge. The divine doesn't judge you about whatever you judge yourself. It just is what it is. So to look back to what I left off is that in this distortion is the great unmasking to become who you truly are. That's also why I have that in the title. And that's a whole process going on. And of course, that feels disorientating because it is out of your current or past conditioning mindset. It is out of what you knew. So it's a total unknown component, but your soul knows. Your soul knows, and that you can trust. So the more you connect actually with this deeper layer of yourself, your core, your essence, your soul, your higher self, the divine, all these layers are interconnected, obviously. But some connect more easily with something they say, okay, this is my heart telling me, or this is my higher self telling me, or this is the divine telling me. So find out what works for you right now, that you can trust. There's a part inside of you that is not disoriented. It's just your human. Your human avatar is disoriented. Your true self is never lost, never disoriented. Never, ever. Because it has much more broader view, much more bird's eye view, so to say, on your path. And therefore, it also wields things where you're not ready yet, where your human body system is not ready yet to receive it or to hold it. Therefore, you cannot force going out of that state. It has a natural, for us human self, unknown evolution, step by step by step. So it's a little bit like how I imagine it is like, here's your human self going that path. Here's your soul and the divine orchestration, watching it and dropping hints on that path, yeah, to find your way through out of the jungle of disorientation. And these, like I mentioned already, these clues on that journey drop in specific moments of timing when we see in the linear time of our being, when your system is ready. Yes, you can help, maybe not so much to exaggerate, but to adjust to it, to really sensitize first your being to receive these clues. Like I said, not being all the time here, but opening your awareness into the present moment, how it is the greatness is communicating with yourself, because then you find the clues even more so. And to then work with it in the way of, okay, I'm following this guidance now, and then I can rest again. I'm following the next clue, and I rest again. So it's much more like at least how I see it, how I feel it, and how I experience it. It's much more again of being that little puppet, not in a negative sense, but being that little puppet of your soul that wants to experience life through this body. And to look backwards, yes, actually, my soul is pretty smart. It hides things, so the journey becomes more like this game, because if I have figured out everything already and if I know everything of it, becomes boring. Yeah, and maybe you know that. Like this Earth game, there are hidden things, secrets, so to say, some things we don't know, some things we are not ready to receive, some things we have to train for, in a sense, to be ready for it, to step up into the next level, to understand something more deeply. Yeah, spiraling, to then, after lifetime, we come to the self-realization again. Remembrance. Not remembrance in your mind, or if you read something, yeah, that feels true. But deep, deep down. And we are, as I see it, we are on the path of embodying that remembrance, not to transcend it. It's one way to do it, and some people are still on that journey, but the majority of people is guided through that path of embodying divine itself, embodying your soul. And that's why I call it soul embodiment. To bring your essence, once you find it, once you remember it, to bring it into each and every cell of your being, to let it vibrate through you, so you become that living transmission. And I have also recorded a podcast episode about that, if you're interested in that. Becoming a living vibration and transmission for others to feel your essence, because your essence is one fractal, one part, one fragment of the grand whole of the divine. So each and every person, and we are like tons of, and even not only persons, people, but also animals, plants, trees, rocks, mountains, nature itself, everything is just one aspect of the divine experiencing itself. And you specifically, you are a specific expression. Only you have that expression. Only you. And that's always the fascinating thing, because it makes you on the one hand, it makes you humble, like, oh, well, I'm here, I'm chosen to be that specific frequency on this planet. On the other hand, you can also see your greatness, your grandness, your, like, wow, this is me. This is like owning yourself again, not in an ego way, like showing off, oh, this is me, but like, yes, I love myself so much, and I want to invite my soul to inhabit my body again. I want to invite my soul to embody to into my body, to embody myself, and that touches me especially right now, because so many teachings, I find so many teachings, and that's where also my path led me from questioning into, like, I mean, to start that sentence again, I was very much on that path of, I could transcend very easily, and I was questioning, why am I in this body? And then on the philosophy of transcendence, it's like, yeah, get rid of your senses, get rid of your body or your emotions, everything. I'm like, why did I come here then in this body? So that started a lot of my journey, actually. And soul embodiment makes so much sense. It is not about getting rid of everything. It's about the remembrance and then bringing it down into your body. It's the greatest manifestation you can make. Not something out of you, but the grand manifestation, the biggest manifestation you can make here on earth is to embody your soul in this body. And you already have it, everything here. It's to ignite the spark that your soul has into physical form. Like, who is moving these hands? How do I move these hands? How do I dress myself? How do I care for myself? This is you with yourself. And a little higher thought, it is you as a divine. The divine experiencing yourself, itself through you as yourself. Yeah. So disorientation, to come back to that, disorientation is needed so you can lay down all these masks, armors, conditionings over lifetimes. It's like Kali coming day after day. Yeah, if you know Kali, the goddess, killing the demons and the egos of yourself. And it's a liberation. It's a liberated act. It's just magnificent if you see it from that perspective, not the desperate, in a way, the desperate tiny human of, I feel stuck and everything what I did before doesn't work, or I have worked so much on me and now it is stuck. Try to establish this connection with your soul. And I had this also in my first transmission, to see always ego and soul, and to be able to communicate with your parts, and even more parts if you want, to make it more multidimensional even. But ego and soul is one easy way to talk with yourself. Like, this is my ego talking now, and this is my soul talking now, and they can talk together, and then have compassion with your ego, and yeah, from your soul's perspective, and to get guidance from your soul. So it's like an internal dialogue you can make and fine tune and adjust, and then of course to invite that higher guidance through your higher self. False identities are erased. And even if some parts of you fight to keep that identity, it will at some point collapse. This is at least my opinion. At some point, you will get tired. Yeah, some egos can be very strong. It's no judgment, but some can be very strong if it's deeply ingrained, if you have past experience, especially like traumatic experiences. Ego is not always like in a sense of like pride and whatever, but also armor, like protection. But also protection has to fall away by anchoring yourself into self-love even more. My belief is firmly the more you love yourself, if you deeply love yourself in all aspects and all dimensions and all what you are, nothing can touch you. It can affect you in a way of that you get triggered in some feelings, but you easily switch back into your own self-worth, seeing like, yeah, okay, this triggered me maybe because of XYZ still, and now I can heal, I can integrate, I can become even like find my wholeness again. And I always know, no matter what others say, think, do to me, I have myself. I am rooted in myself. Yeah, a lot also collectively still I feel working on that self-love part because of looking too much outside. The interesting thing, and life oftentimes works in a paradox, is that if you turn it around, not looking outside, but starting inside of you and become so much deeply rooted in yourself, you will automatically at some point attract specifically those in the same vibration, which means also love and authenticity. If you wear a mask, if you are some sort of identity you have created around yourself as an armor, you will attract like-minded masks and identities. Yeah, that's also why I mentioned, like, if someone is a lot in an ego identity, it will attract also egos. And if you are already on the path of soul alignment and soul embodiment, there will be a gap first until other people find their way also in soul alignment. So sometimes, yes, it can feel quite lonely on that reconfiguration, reprogramming. But in the long run, and the soul, of course, doesn't know any time, but from a human perspective, in the long run, you will calibrate yourself to long-term stability. I would say ego is much more tied to short-term satisfaction, but the soul thrives towards long-term baseline. Like, once you are through this, you can also say, once you're through this phase, you will be, no matter what happens, you will be much more in your center if you use it that way. But as I also mentioned, at some point, no matter how much you fight, at some point that collapses. Suppression, fighting, forcing, it's not part anymore of your new life. It has never been in a way, but it got distorted throughout history. We don't have to fight. We don't have to force. We have to allow and receive. That's the new mechanism how humanity wants, or the divine wants through us, to experience itself. Sometimes I feel also like maybe you've watched one of my very old podcast episodes about reprogramming yourself. Sometimes I see it this way also on a collective scale, that we are playing one game collectively, and the divine said like, oh, this game has become boring now, or I want something new, I want something else to experience, another game. So it needs to reprogram all these players inside. Yeah, it's a mass recalibration we are going through. That's for me at least a good metaphor to understand our ascension process. Like, we have played the game of this frequency, and now to play the game of that frequency, of course, we need to change something. And that changes holistically. And once you understand more of these mechanisms, you participate more consciously in it. It doesn't necessarily, from a human perspective, gets more easy or less painful, because these are part, no matter where you are consciousness wise, I feel it's part of that human journey. And some souls chose to dive very deep into emotions to explore that topic in specific. Yeah, so also here side note, to not to judge yourself for any of the emotions that's come in these states of disorientation, stuckness, looping, and to flow with it more consciously in that way. It also actually gives you a deeper understanding of the grand mechanism, how the universe functions. Yeah. All right. Comment. I have suffered with OCD, loneliness after mom passed. Continue to live without balance, not by choice. My runaway mind disrupts my progress. I would love to learn to reprogram myself in the now. So, past is past. Now is now. Or we can also say everything is in the now. So, in a way, what I feel in that storyline, first of all, thank you so much for sharing. And maybe we dive into storylines. So as a human being, we live in storylines. And oftentimes, especially if we have someone we are stuck in, or we are attached to, let's say it like this, it's an attachment, we are stuck in the past. So to reprogram yourself in the now, first of all, find a way to be in the now, or to expand your awareness that everything happens now. Balance also happens here and now. So especially your first sentence after mom passed is a way of being still in a storyline of the past, of maybe revisiting moments with that person, of actually being attached to the form. Because as we know, soul is eternal. Soul is vast, incarnates in different bodies over lifetime. So maybe first, even before you can come into the now, it is about grieving, allowing grief, allowing emotions, allowing this past version that may still be attached to moments of being together with that person, to first process that, to let your system digest that, and to then come into the present moment. Because you keep yourself from experiencing the present moment if you repeat past storylines. Life changes all the time. Things come, people go, things go. And that is something as a learning of this human experience. And to then tap higher into everything is always here. Even now you can connect with your mother's soul, the essence is always there, has always been there. It's much more, maybe still the attachment to that past. Balance comes then in the here and now. Well, let me read that again. Not by choice. Continue to live without balance, not by choice. My runaway mind disrupts my progress. Mind. Okay. So here and now, mind, meditation. So the mind, yes, it's sometimes a hindrance. Also stuck in the past, stuck in the future, stuck in the whatever. Yeah, sometimes if we really observe our mind, it has so many fragments of images, of thoughts, of half thoughts, of truth, not truth, of Yeah, what do I eat? Or higher contemplations. So first of all, also to bring that in balance, that your mind cannot run away. Yes, your mind is spinning, but that's the point of meditation or any form of awareness practice, to bring it back into the now. So it's multi-layered what you write. Yeah, you can start with what calls you first. So maybe it's the processing of your past first, then the coming back, more and more training yourself to be in the present moment by meditation. And meditation doesn't need to sit silently, can also be, what I love doing is dance meditation, just dancing, just moving, just feeling yourself in the present moment. Or maybe it's even gardening or being in a hobby, very immersed in a single pointed focus. Because if you have a single pointed focus, mantra chanting is also very perfect for that. If you are drawn to that, can recommend, because it primes your mind to be on one specific point instead of being fragmented. This is the mind in daily life, in usual people. The more you have practices and techniques, and that's daily habit at some point, to bring these fragments into one single pointed focus. Or to observe this, but not engage in it. That's another technique. Yeah. Either you bring all these fragments into one point. This is also the balance inside. One single point, which may be the breath, which may be the heartbeat, which may be the third eye, which may be a mantra, which may be a image. Yeah. So many techniques to bring it to a single point. Or you just sit as an observer. Disidentification of you and your thoughts. Who thinks your thoughts? You still have a choice to engage in it or not. And if your mind runs away, maybe you can, I like to work in images, maybe you can even establish a part inside of you that catches, yeah, a little bit like all your thoughts are like little sheep, yeah, like little animals. And the shepherd is coming and collecting them into one focus point. Yeah, it's maybe a far stretched image, but the sense of it, I mean, is like your essence is more powerful than your mind. Your essence is more powerful than your mind. It needs a bit of training because we have collectively been conditioned in another way, but you are much more powerful than your mind. And once you understand that, you can more consciously use your mind. And it's not New Earth. It's not about the mind. It's about the heart. So if you also want to work on that, drop into your heart, because this is also much more connected with your soul. Your heart has an own language, and it is subtler, it is softer. It is not this. It's more, yeah, like a soft humming. So it is also kind of like a training of awareness to say, no, I'm not engaging in my thoughts right now. I'm coming into my heart. What is my heart telling me? Have a conversation. Yeah, really personify your heart. Have a conversation with your heart. What is your heart needing, asking, advising? So it's a little bit like turning the volume down of your thoughts and turning the volume up of your heart. That recalibration we want to have. The heart is more connected with your soul, and your soul guides the way. The mind is more connected with any conditionings, any belief system that have been lifetimes, and especially also from your parents and from the environment you grew up. That is your mind. But your heart, that's just you. That's not, let's say, it's not polluted. It's not polluted by others' interferences. So it has a much cleaner, a much more truthful for you compass for your life. So yes, the mind often disrupts our progress because it runs in autopilot and it is not our true self. Well, people never move on from deep love. And some souls are meant to depend on each other because it has been written in their contract. And if anything, the soul orchestrates the human self, just puts things into practice. And it is I just let my energy at the moment transmit. Let's say it like this. Life, well, some things are not meant to be understood by the mind. The mind will never understand. That's why I said it is not about understanding, it's about feeling and remembering. It is about acknowledging a truth you feel and not overthinking emotions. What is destined, only the mind can disturb. But this needs to drop past stories, drop past pain, drop what ifs, and just, I wanted to say something that I'm not saying now because it's probably banned from YouTube, but no, deep soul bonds never can be disrupted by anything or anyone. And some dependence is healthy in the way when it is meant for a shared soul mission. Devotion, yes, and love is beyond the physical. And sometimes, at the same time, because my opinion is we are here to experience it on all levels. Not only with the divine, not only with ourselves, not only to our loved ones, not only to animals, to nature, but to embody the frequency of divine union And that's now a big span from being stuck or feeling disoriented. But maybe that's exactly the path. What is also in the field collectively is to find our own inner union. And that's a complete whole other topic I can talk about. To find our own inner masculine and feminine energies and marry them inside of us, so that when we come together as a whole. And maybe I've mentioned it somewhere. It's, yeah, sticking to a person. I'm referring to you in the chat again. So your mom passed. And in spirit, she's always there. But if it becomes an attachment so much that it blocks your evolution, your growth, your joy, your happiness, your dancing in the sky, your desires to be fulfilled, then it is such a deep attachment that it blocks actually what your mother wanted for you. No mother wants their child to feel lonely just because she passed. No mother wants someone to experience pain and suffering all the time. So this grip has to loosen by connecting with her in spirit. And there are lots of tools how to channel actually souls, because it's an energy. What your mother wanted for you, she birthed you because she wanted you to be happy. So actually the greatest gift you can give to her is to embrace this life fully, your life. It's even like honoring she has birthed you. Yeah, we can say it like this. Clinging to a form, and that's also a human initiation. I feel like clinging to a form instead of seeing we are all interconnected all the time. We are actually the same. You and me, we are one. My essence is your essence. We are just mirroring each other. We are reflecting each other in the deepest sense. And acceptance or not acceptance, sometimes it's much more about what is your truth? What is your own willpower? What do you deeply sense, not by mind, but by your heart? What does it say? What is the guidance from the soul? What is the next step here? And in this dimension, it is about action. In this dimension, it is about action. And if it is selfish to still depend on if it's coming from soul, it is not selfish. If it comes from ego, it would be selfish. So find the difference between when something comes from ego, mine, or when it comes from soul, which is much more, I give you my hand. And if you give your hand to me, then it's a mutual agreement. This is what I can say to this. And the main aspect of this is to come out of the mind and drop into the heart. Because the heart already knows. And like I said, the mind is loud, the mind is, but the heart is a very soft humming. And it is much more about making space for the feelings that want to be expressed, making space for what your soul came here to experience. And when the mind is still in so many distorted beliefs, in so many storylines, in so many, I don't know what to do, I want this, I want this, and maybe I don't want this, and maybe this, and breathe. Breathing is the best and shortest meditation, to be honest. One breath in and out, shortest meditation. What is my heart telling me? What is my heart truly telling me? Independent of what others say, independent of past stories, independent even of what I envisioned for the future. Can I be open and curious to just let myself fall into the unknown and just say, like, this is my truth? And this is what I'm here to experience. So the disorientation phase, of course, is also here to actually reconnect you to your deepest truth, which is always your soul's desire. And I also speak a lot about ego desire and soul desire. Ego desire is this grasping, I want to have, I want this and that. Soul is soft. And soul even also releases because it already knows it's yours. And then maybe it is not even a reprogramming, but again, the name, a remembrance. Reprogramming is still a little bit like more mind-based. A remembrance is more heart-based. Remembering what is your essence. Remembering what you came here for. What is your soul's contract? Not to suffer, not for pain. And some Buddhist teachings are a lot about suffering and how to get rid of suffering, so to say. For me, it means finding your ultimate truth, finding your ultimate truth. And that is only possible if you calm the mind, if you sit without the energy of all noises from outside, what others say, think, do. Finding your truth. Because sometimes a soul has actually made so many difficulties from a perspective of the human mind that it feels almost like impossible. But then I can say, these souls that have from the outside, like, or from felt sense, so many hurdles and hindrances, these are the most powerful souls because they have chosen a difficult path to remember again. Maybe you can reframe that for you. Some who are disoriented or in the stuck phase feel like, why is so much, so much confusion? Why is so much darkness in my field and not for others? Like the comparison. Reframe that into, my soul is so powerful. That's why I have chosen so many. I've chosen so many things, actually, not only to solve for myself, but for the collective. Most powerful souls have so many hindrances and trauma and, if we want to say it in our duality, darkness. Because it's their hero's journey to journey out of this. Their soul made like, yes, I mean, maybe you know the movie Soul from Pixar, very much so. I imagine like, here up there, like up there. Our soul's like, oh, I want to experience this. And then I have my own hero story, my hero's journey. I will be the best actor of my own storyline. And then once you come down here, like, okay, as a human being, okay, what do I do here? I have a human body, I have these problems. But then switch back again. Flip your perspective to your soul, and then flip your script. Flip your script or make it the most beautiful one. Out of the darkness comes the light. Everyone. Yes, sometimes it's still a choice. In some way, free will is a question here. But if you are in devotion to your soul, actually, if you're in love and devotion to your soul, what would you do? If you are in love and devotion to your soul, what would you do? It is about you, always. Because in this confusion and disoriented phase, also a lot of the voices of other people come in us, especially our parents. What does my father want? What would my mother approve? What would like my best friends think of me? Silence that. It is about you. It is about you. And sometimes we have to make a harsh decision. But in the long run, we will be grateful for ourselves to have followed our soul and not someone else's conditioning, actually. Usually these voices are also conditionings of them. Because actually, if someone really lives from their heart, from their truth, from their soul, a lot of people either don't understand it, judge it, talk about it. Why? Because they are still in this matrix game of playing a false identity, playing a false role. We don't want this. Humans, as soul embodied, that's a new paradigm we are birthing. And I hope at some point it clicks, because I can imagine the deeper you are in this entanglement of the matrix, of the system, the more you need to loosen that and question and look behind what actually is played here with us, so that you can step out of it. And then actually it's a parallel timeline. That's maybe what you also have heard about split timelines, that humanity is going into split timelines. Either you choose the light path or the path to soul, or you choose to stay in the matrix. And matrix, I always mean like the entanglements in the system, in doing jobs you don't like, in like just being concerned how to pay your next bill, in judging, in blaming, in all these games. Different game. Yeah, you can play that, and there's no judgment. Some souls choose that, to stay there. The question is, what makes you truly happy? Or not even only happy, but fulfilled. Happiness is a state you can be now happy and next moment not happy. But fulfillment is a deeply soul nourishment. And that is why in a stuck, disoriented phase, so many processes are multi-layered. And at some point, you have to switch off your mind. Or it will maybe automatically, because you, as I mentioned, always and again press against a wall. Because it wants you to look at all these patterns you have avoided for so long. All these patterns you have avoided to confront yourself with. But also here the paradox is, if you really confront yourself with your deepest shadows, shadow work, to bring that into the light, to integrate it, you find back to your own wholeness and aliveness. You find back to your own true self. It's a gift, we can say. It's a blessing. And from a human perspective, no, it doesn't look like a blessing. But the soul wants to breathe again. I oftentimes say that the soul wants to breathe again. And what you accept or not is a choice. To course correct. Because love doesn't judge. Love, true love. I'm not speaking of the love that is transactional, that commands and requests and grasps, and that's a complete whole topic also I can talk about this love we are bringing down again to earth. And just here now, it was Krishna's birthday celebration, so to say, yesterday. So it's that one, Krishna Radha, the devotional love, eternal love story that is woven into existence. And it's a blessing to experience that in human form. So to summarize, the state of feeling stuck, disoriented, looping is a very important phase in our individual and collective evolution towards new earth, because it is a way how the soul, how the divine through us reprograms our system from ego-based masks and identities into showing your true self, into loving yourself unconditionally, into actually owning the character you wanted to play in your life story. Because I feel like, yes, you can play with identities, and that's also what I talk about. You can play with that consciously to explore more aspects of yourself. But from a soul level, the soul has an imprint of, or like a blueprint of its essence that it wants to live freely, fully, unapologetically, radically. And that is being birthed, if you allow it. If you allow it. And that needs for surrender. 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 With a capital S. Yeah. Surrendering is in a way also saying, I know magic is possible. Miracles are possible. So many people have lost that sense of mysticism in life. That's our multidimensionality we are rediscovering. And how that specific phase looks for you is, of course, very specific to your journey and what your soul wanted to experience. But if you journey with your soul, this will end. It will end at some point. And I know also from my own experience, sometimes it feels like, oh, it's somehow never ending. Yeah, it's never ending. Somehow always continuing. Yes, some way it's always continuing. But yeah, some say astrological wise, and I mentioned that also last time, 2032 is kind of like a more uplifting energy. But I feel even if we see the numerology of this year, it's kind of a year of endings, the 9, 2025, 2026. It's much more like the seeds are coming to light. What we have sown, like under the surface, our deep shadow work in this year and the past years, I would say even from 2022, when COVID hit, it's a lot of shadow work we are doing collectively. And my anticipation, at least, is that from next year onwards, We are birthing and birthing. Thank you so much. If you have any questions to this afterwards, or if you're watching the replay, or if you have any topic suggestions, wishes, desires, please leave them afterwards in the comments, or also if you wish on Instagram, then leave it there to connect. And that is for this, for this transmission. Thank you so much for joining. All the clarity and all the love and all the wisdom you have already inside of you for your specific journey of ascension, of remembrance, of awakening, and of descending your soul, the divine inside your body, that your soul can breathe again. Remember that this journey is about your soul being brave to shed everything that you are not, so it can breathe again. So much love and bliss.